We are so excited and are giving thanks for our Thanksgiving playwright herself, Larissa FastHorse.
Just like it sounds, Speedy Pony, Fast Horse.
Thank you, Larissa, for coming on the show.
Welcome to our illustrious studio.
Yes, look at the
fancy.
new one. I know. So you have a new play coming. Well, it's not new. This has been done before, right?
It has.
Right,
Actually.
but it's a New York premiere
Yep.
of a play of yours called The Thanksgiving Play.
That's it.
All right, at Playwrights Horizons. Tell us a little bit about that.
Woo! It's a comedy. It's actually a comedy within a satire, which is like a tricky thing. But it's about Thanksgiving. What?
Those are the best ones. That's great.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
We're at Playwrights Horizons. Ritz Van Stupenagel is directing it. So
Oh, cool.
It's
Moritz.
funny.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Definitely.
And we open, we're getting ready. We're in rehearsals right now. We start previews October 12th and we open November 5th. And running through Thanksgiving.
Oh, man.
See what they did there?
There we
I
go.
see what you did.
Yeah.
You bring your
Yeah.
family.
I know.
come to the show.
Yeah. Also, I wore this shirt specifically for you.
It made me very
Yeah,
happy.
I know. Yeah, get the
Yay,
shirt. Yo, Kyle, get the
congratulations.
shirt. You know what's good. Okay, whatever.
I'm
We're
sorry.
done.
That
Yeah.
makes me so happy that there's going to be a play called The Thanksgiving Play. Let's all go see it
Yeah,
after
I
the
know.
Thanksgiving
Yeah.
Play.
You don't have to go to a movie. Go to theater on
Right,
Thanksgiving.
exactly. So, what's sort of the synopsis of this play?
So it's. I try not to. I'm one of those playwrights that hates like telling you what it's about because I hate knowing what it's about. But I will say it's really exploring white people.
Yeah.
It's exploring.
Yeah.
I'd say like what we're calling performative.
You're on the right show for this.
right. Yeah.
Story of my life.
It's really talking about performative wokeness and how that causes a lot of problems for people of color, and how white society, perhaps American theater, I don't know, is always trying to involve people of color without actually involving them. And so it's a lot of people, well-meaning people, trying to create this play about Thanksgiving for Native American Heritage Month, and they're trying to make it as like politically correct and woke as possible, but maybe without considering any actual Native point of view.
Right.
That
Well,
sounds amazing.
There you go.
yeah, I can't wait. I've been like, when I saw it in the season for Playwrights, I was like, that's the show, and that's who we need on. That's who we need on.
Also, first Native American artist at Playwrights Horizons.
Holy crap!
Took a while.
Is that
Yeah.
true?
We're happy.
Yeah.
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 First Native American playwright. Yep.
Also, first Native American player on our show, but we've only been around for a year. So.
For a year.
Yeah, not like
Yeah.
a million. So.
Yeah.
So you guys are quick. You're on
Yeah,
it.
well, yeah, you know, we got our radar going. So,
Not bad,
yeah.
not bad.
Growing up in America,
Yes.
does your perception and traditions of Thanksgiving differ from what you were taught? I mean, obviously now, but were there any sort of like reconciliations you had to do growing up with that sort of duality?
Yeah, I grew up in the middle of the country in South Dakota, and I think I was really fortunate. I grew up in the time of reconciliation, and so I'm Lakota, and that's where I'm from. Like that, I grew up in the area I'm from, and so we didn't really do any of those things. Like we didn't have Columbus Day way before it was a thing. Not to have Columbus Day. We had Native American Day. We called it there, and we never did like I've never done like the Pilgrim Indian like those
Oh,
skits
wow.
and
Okay.
all that
Yeah,
stuff
yeah,
that
yeah.
people do.
Yeah.
I've never done.
Okay.
We didn't do any of that. We never had to dress up like that. I think
Wow.
maybe we did the hand turkeys once, maybe, but
Right.
we just never did that stuff.
Right.
So,
But a hand turkey's still like super mild, you know?
Yeah,
even,
no, totally.
Even still.
And
Yeah.
so I didn't we did Thanksgiving was just a time for family and gratitude and food, and my
Right, right.
favorite Autos came from Twin Cities, and we hung out,
Right.
and that was what Thanksgiving really was for me.
Right, right.
And so really in doing this play, it's the first time I learned about like how deep Thanksgiving is.
Holy shit! Yeah.
It's like intense.
That's crazy.
Like not just
Yeah.
in what we
Yeah.
like in so many ways. Like it's deep in the way like what we make kids do. All the crazy stuff we have kids do at Thanksgiving. It's like out of control. There's actually a lot of things I took from real life, from like teachers' Pinterest boards of like the crazy current stuff we still have kids doing today.
Right.
But it's like really offensive and crazy. So I had.
Can you give us an
there's that.
example of some of the things that you've seen?
You know what? Like the that 10 Little Indians poem. People still do that. They still have kids doing that. Like, and it's about the death of the
Yeah.
genocide of Indians one by one. And they still do that with kids. Like there's all these videos of people, and then there's this one nursery rhyme, like I don't know, nurseryrhymes.org or something, and it was the 10 Little Indians, right? And then at the end, there was a note by a teacher from like 2 years ago that said, hey, just for fun, you can sometimes replace Indians with Injuns. And like, because that's fun.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's the stuff we're still having kids do.
Yeah.
I was shocked. I had no idea.
I'm
perfectly
I'm
honest.
shook. I'm
Yeah,
so
right?
shook.
Yeah.
I know, it's
damn.
nuts. And then you go into the other side of it, which is the actual history of Thanksgiving.
Right.
Insane. Like, I knew it was complicated. I knew, it's not as clear cut as none of history is, right? But I had no idea until I started researching it, like how complicated Thanksgiving. It actually doesn't exist. Like the thing that we recognize as Thanksgiving, there's no one thing that exists as that thing.
Right.
So there you go. Done.
Wow.
Just ruined Thanksgiving.
How am I supposed to eat my candied yams now, Larissa?
Sorry.
Fucking A.
Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah. So a lot of you were describing your play as perceptions of whiteness and white people, and some of your casting of white people is on purpose because a lot of theater companies say, oh, we can't find actors of that race, so we're just going to cast white people with like a spray tan. Has this, I'm assuming you might find it as offensive as I do, so has this informed the writing of this play or just like other plays you've done?
Oh no, I mean honestly that's why I wrote this play. Originally, so I've been doing this for a dozen years now, and I've been really fortunate, I will say. American theater's been really good for me. I do this as my full-time job as a playwright. It's been really great. That said, I work primarily in a commission, right? Yeah. So when a theater company commissions you, they're more likely to put the money into making productions. They've already spent money on you, right? So they're going to produce it. What I don't get is the next production. And the number one reason I don't get that next production is casting.
Right.
And people are like, we love the play, but we just can't cast it. And they're not willing to put the time and the effort into it because they didn't commission it. They want an easy play they can license that doesn't cost them too much money. Right. And people are like, we can't do it. I had one play that was a half Native American character, and I was told it was uncastable. And so, so the good news is most people are like, no, we don't want to like not use a Native American person, but then they just say, well, we're just not going to do it at all, and we're not going to do any Native American plays with any Native American characters. Right. And so I was tired of fighting, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah,
like, okay.
It's exhausting.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, fine. American theater, you don't want to cast Native people. I believe America still not only has a lot to learn about Indigenous peoples and the contemporary Indigenous experience, but they want to. Like, we don't have anywhere else we can learn these things, right? We're not taught it in school. We've been left out of like all of like pop culture. So I was like, I'm still think you guys want to learn these things, so I'm going to give it to you in a way that uses all white people. So don't cast
what's your
that.
excuse now?
Don't cast that, American theater.
I dare you.
Swallow this pill, motherfucker. Swallow this shit.
So then, right? But then the backup of that, right, is immediately my most requested play. So you make a play with a bunch of white people, it's incredibly successful.
Right.
So
Well,
it's like the most depressing success I've ever had,
Well, the
right?
thing with Lynn Nottage, she was like, Sweat was the play that had the most white people, and obviously that's the one that goes to Broadway. You know what I mean? So, I mean...
Ooh, I just got tea all over my face.
Oh, it's okay.
Excuse me.
It's
a thing. It's a traditional Native American thing.
Yeah.
Drop a tea. It's lucky.
Don't you know Tivana is such an indigenous like tradition?
I remember watching the documentary Smoke Signals and seeing we just had a lot of fun when it came to like, this is like, this is a tradition. Yeah, totally. The words I'm saying are traditional, and it was more or less like, I hate all white people. Like, it was like the greatest. Yeah. So you were saying before that your Thanksgiving play, because you had such a different experience than perhaps most of the country, that a lot of it was, you had to do a lot of research for that. So what type of research did you do for this? Yeah,
it's kind of crazy. So especially when you're dealing with Native American subjects, 90% of what's written is from an outside perspective, right? Anything that's written down in history is from an outside perspective. So I had to do a mix
that's the
colonizer's
perspective.
And so most of it's wrong, right? Because they're coming at it from a completely different worldview. So whenever I research things, my mom's a librarian, my dad's a sociologist, so I'm like way into research. I could just research forever. I love that. But whenever I research things, I have to also, I can't just rely on what's written. So I did a combination. So I did a ton of, these pilgrims were they weren't called pilgrims then, called separatists, but the separatists were really into writing down like their day-to-day lives. They wrote down everything they did, like really bad shit. They just were like, yep, this is what we did today. So I had all their writings, and then I also talked to a lot of Native people who are from the East Coast here and from the areas where all this stuff happened. And it's fascinating, like one family I talked to, they have an oral history story they've been passing down for 500 years of their family member who saw the first ships coming to their land, like saw them coming through the ocean. And they've been passing the story down every year for 500 years, and they always tell it at Thanksgiving.
Oh my goodness.
And it's really, and so
that's
like
invaluable.
I know, and so those things still exist, right? And so I have to kind of use this whole combination of, you know, what I can find through like what the settler folks wrote, what I can find that's been written by and about the indigenous people, and then I have to actually talk to indigenous people. And so I did like all of that.
Wow.
And then I went to Ireland and wrote it in 10 days.
Oh, right. You did, you had a residency in Ireland. Right. What is the most expansive research you've ever done? Because I know you're like a very research-driven playwright.
You know, I'm working on a play right now about the Dakota War of 1862. Well, and it's actually not anymore. It's just about Dakota people. But we started with the war and then talked to a lot of Dakota people. So I've been going out to Minnesota right now and then South Dakota and just talking to folks and interviewing so many people and going to so many sites, and that's taking us a couple years of just research before I've even started writing.
Wow.
This January I was actually out there and so I'm Lakota. Dakotas are like our, you know, our cousins, we call them. And so it was like 4 degrees out and there's like a ground blizzard and they're all, so what you need to do is you need to lie on the land and hear what the land has to say. And so I go out there, I have to drive out in the middle of nowhere, and I'm like, for a moment I'm like, is this like a Lakota hazing thing?
Like, you're just messing with it.
I know, because I'm like, I can't even like, lying on the ground, I can't see anything but light, and I'm out here in the middle, it's like, you know, 4 feet of snow and 4 degrees. I'm like, what? For a moment I was like, I don't know. And then I did it, and I was like, whoa. I get it. Like I get that's the ground they were on, and this is where this happened, and these, you know, and like it all like came through exactly what they told me. But yeah, I was a little nervous.
Oh wow! Oh, that's so cool.
I thought you were gonna say it ended up like, oh no, they were in a bar down the street. Like, I wonder if Larissa is out there.
Yeah, right.
Did she fall for it?
Did it? Yeah. You also wrote this play called "What Would Crazy Horse Do," which sort of explores the real existential anxiety of Indigenous Americans. As an Indigenous American playwright yourself, what does it mean for you to be working in American theater given this country's history?
Oh, wow. It's hard. There, how's that?
Done. Yeah.
Cut. No, it's good. I mean, so here's the thing. Like when I started, I've been working in the LORT world, League of Resident Theaters, right? Which is, you know, theaters around the country most of my career. It's my first like full-length play in New York, and LORT's been good to me. But literally, there would be 3-4 years where I would be the only Native American playwright in with the contract in all of LORT, and so it was very weird at the beginning of my career because we've had like this incredible like base of Indigenous theater makers that started, you know, way back, 10,000 years. We are natural theater makers. But even in the American theater, we had theater makers that were more on the, I'd say, experimental, really kind of interesting, exciting, unusual side of things back in the 60s, 70s, Spider-Woman, Bill Yellowrobe, Terry Gomez, like these amazing theater makers are doing this really interesting, unusual theater. And then something happened and there was some kind of disconnect in like the 80s, 90s. And so we get to the 2000s and everybody's just kind of gone from like mainstream American theater. I don't know where the natives went. I mean, they're there, but they just kind of disappeared through the LORT world. So there were years I was wandering around, like I said, the only one. Now, 12 years later, it's incredible. I mean, there's so many of us out there that are getting contracts, that are getting commissions, that are getting productions again and again. So it's working. It's just been exhausting because each of us has. I'll keep hitting my mic. Sorry, everybody.
You're good.
Each of us has such a responsibility to keep opening doors. And it's a lot of work. I mean, it's endless work at the theater, re-educating the theater, re-educating the front of house, re-educating the lit departments, re-educating everybody to like understand Indigenous theater and that there is a place for it and it is producible and it is relevant and it is timely. It's all those things, right? And so we have to do the kind of, all of us that are in there now have to do the work to open those doors, but it's working, and that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, you know, there's like this whole, with Crazy Rich Asians and that Netflix show, with All the Boys, I Love You.
To All the Boys I've Ever Loved.
Yeah. There's like sort of this like Asian American in the media representation, like awakening happening, but I always felt that like, especially with the Native people in America, like, I think it's America's prerogative, honestly, to like really expand these voices, because it's like, this is your fault, like, honestly, you know, like, I've always been so sort of confused. I mean, not totally confused because I know American history, but like this idea that like we're trying to give voice to a lot of other sort of ethnic minorities, but I really think America as a nation really needs to sort of like put their energy behind Native voices, because this is like,
and step up.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, we like, it's their aka our prerogative to like really expand this. When like Mary Catherine Nagle had her production in DC, like I was legit about to take a bus out there because I was like, I want to see this play. Like I'm so curious, I'm hungry for this voice. So I'm like so happy that you're here.
Well, honestly. And everyone, I mean, you're profiting off of stolen land.
Yeah,
it's still our land.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're still profiting off of it.
Yeah.
So you need. I mean, there isn't one theater in America that doesn't need to pay something back.
Right. Yeah.
Truth.
It's. I know. It's just crazy. It's just crazy how this works. But
well, you were describing when you were going through, particularly in the '90s, that you were the only one that was like you, and so often you were the representative of all Indigenous peoples to each theater that you would be in. And I know that it's changed. It's starting to change, but from what you described, it's still, you know, you're still like the one of the season at that place. Yeah. There's not two Indigenous players. There's not three Indigenous players. It's yeah. So you're often like the representative of your of Indigenous people. Like how do you feel shouldering that when you actually have when you consistently find yourself in that position?
Yeah. Well, and I'm still always the first one. So I'm the first Native American playwright at Playwrights. I'm the first one at Cincinnati Playhouse in Park this year. I'm the first one that was just at Artist Repertory Theater last year. I'm the first one at Kansas City rep last year. I mean, you know, like it just goes on. I mean, I'm still the first one. Yeah. You know what I mean? Absolutely. So even when there's, you know, Mary Catherine and different folks are out there, I'm still the first one at that theater, and she is the same, and the rest of you know, all the playwrights out there, we're still the first one. So there's so much that we are expected to represent. I personally, I didn't go to school for playwriting. Like I didn't know how to be a playwright, so I was making it up when I started, and didn't know any better. So at my first theater, which was the Lort Theater, I said to them, basically my two challenges. I cannot be the only Indigenous artist being paid money in this season, and I cannot have the only Indigenous art in this season.
Ooh.
And then I let them figure it, and I'll work with them.
Right.
I let them figure out how to do that, right?
Damn bold.
And I've done that for my first play, and it went great. So I've done it with every other one, right?
Yeah.
So it always turns out differently, and some of the things have been, like this year, for instance, at Playwrights Horizons, they hired Emily Johnson, who's an Alaska Native artist, and she's here in New York, and they hired her to be the guest curator for the year at Playwrights Horizons, so she can provide a lot of that education and a lot of that
props
stuff. So
Playwrights
Look at that finesse! Look at that finesse!
Yeah,
that's great.
And,
that's awesome.
And we're going to be having all this amazing Indigenous art in the building. They're putting up a land acknowledgement sign, permanent one. They're doing a lot of great things. I still do a good amount of training. Like I already did a staff training from front of house all the way up, because I want my community to come, and theater is not made for my community. It's a completely different culture. It doesn't fit my culture.
Right. It's basically not made for anyone who's not really white anyway.
Exactly. Right. So I do a lot of training, and I go ahead and take that on, because again, that's part of like opening the door for the next artist. And so it's, you know, yes, we do have to do a lot more training. I can imagine like what it would be like to just show up and write and work on your play,
Right.
like that's just crazy town.
Yeah.
Apparently people do that, but I've never done it. And the day I get to do that,
I feel
it'd be
you.
kind of
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
But
I just have to say, I love that as a piece of advice of only for, like Asian American theater artists, African American theater artists. Know your worth. Like, know what you're worth. If a company wants to take on your work, you can set your own limitations. Be like, okay, I will accept this position. And in so doing, I also expect that I will not be the only person there that I can identify with. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that so much. And it's not something, it's honestly, to me, it sounds novel. Like, I don't hear artists being able to know their worth and be able to put that. So I think that's fantastic.
Right? Well, and it's come up with so many amazing things. Like, because I help them. I let them figure out how they want to do it. So like one theater ended up commissioning live painting in the lobby, which, by the way, don't live spray paint during your show. Just telling you that now. Sorry, I love my spray paint artists.
Ventilation needs to be a
it
thing.
was a problem. It was set up right in front of the stage management booth.
Oh,
and so
man.
they
Stage manager's just like,
they had like gas masks on. They were like, so didn't maybe do that a little farther, like outside.
Right.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah, okay.
Learn from my mistakes. But they did that. I had another theater commission a dance artist create a site-specific piece for the lobby. We've had marketplaces with native artists coming and selling their work. One place, they literally sold out like the first day.
Wow.
And they're like, we're supposed to be here 3 days. But I was like, hey, we've got lots of rich white people. Let's sell them stuff, right?
Oh,
and they want to know where to find it, like legitimate indigenous art. So here it is.
And
Bring
buying
to
it
them.
from
Right.
people as
Exactly.
opposed to people have resold and exploitative. Like, that's fantastic.
Yeah, and we've had like hired indigenous catering companies. We've done, like all these amazing things that the theaters have come up with, or given away tons of tickets to native community centers. So it's really been different in every spot, and it's been amazing though because it's made them think like, okay, what can we actually do? What can we follow through so we meet this challenge? And it's different in every place, and it's been really cool. So,
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Well, just going off of that, then, do you recommend, other indigenous playwrights or artists that we should, look for?
Yeah, well, you already mentioned Mary Catherine Nagel, old friend of mine who I love.
Nice.
Delana Studi's in town performing in the Gloria Steinem piece.
Okay.
She's playing Wilma Mankiller and other roles, but she's a Cherokee artist that is newly a playwright. She's an actress that just wrote her first play.
All right. Welcome to this world.
I
It's going to be a grind.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Expect hardship.
Are you sure? I love you, sure?
Right.
But she's in town performing that. We have you guys have so much great indigenous theater here in New York City. You have the Eagle Project, which has performed my work and forms a lot of different indigenous artists. You have Spider Woman, of course, the originators of amazing amazing downtown theater, but now indigenous downtown theater specifically. You have Emarinda, which produces indigenous work. They have last few years have been focusing a little more on Shakespeare projects with indigenous voices and indigenous points of view, but they also do other contemporary work. In town here you have Ty Defoe, who's my little bro. He's amazing. He's got a piece coming up that he co-wrote and co-directed called A G-Jack, and that's going to be coming up in January at the New Vic. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
The children's one? Yeah.
Okay.
Somebody's like, wait, is that right?
Yeah.
That's coming up. There's so many. Maddie Sayet is doing stuff up in Connecticut, I think, right now. She directs a lot of Shakespeare.
You're like a walking newsletter.
Vicky Ramirez.
Yeah.
She just
shout out.
joined New Dramatist.
Okay, yeah.
Just went to her induction last
Oh,
week.
yes.
I think she's no.
Oh, really?
She's the only native playwright. They've had others, but she's the only one right now.
Okay, cool.
So,
cool.
yeah.
All right.
There's tons of people.
Oh,
There's so much native stuff to go to. Do it.
Do it. Get your ass on it. Do you have any advice that you would give to your younger self or perhaps other aspiring playwrights who might be watching right now?
Yeah, I think, really what you were saying is I tell players all the time, know your power, right?
Yeah.
Playwrights, they're making money off of you. This is what they do, right? They don't exist unless we write plays and let them make money off of our plays. So do it. Know what your power is. Know how to demand what you need. Ask for what you need. Ask for what your community needs. Ask for change. It's amazing how often I talk to young playwrights and they're like, oh, I hope they produce my play. Oh, well, they produced it. And they're so careful. And it's like, they only exist because they're making money off of you. They wouldn't program that if they didn't think they could if not even if not get ticket sales, but at least get grants off of it and make money, right? I mean, theaters have to stay open, and they do it off of our work. So ask for what you need.
Know
Take
your power,
the power,
know your worth.
Yeah, and do it. It's maddening to me often. I see playwrights like going in with such a
sort of a meek attitude.
Yeah, it's so crazy. It's like, no, they don't exist without you.
Right.
They need us. And know that. And so I'm not saying like be difficult. I'm not saying whatever. I'm just saying like, if you belong to a community that is maybe an underrepresented community, make sure they bring more people in. Find other ways to open the doors.
Right.
And these theaters are dying to do that, and they'll make a ton of grant money off of it.
Everybody wins.
Yeah, and I'd say speaking of grants, also make sure you see those grants. I demand that I see any grant grant that has my name and a budget that from a grant that uses my name. Because otherwise money is being raised on your name and your ethnicity.
Oh, right.
And being used for things you don't know about, right? That may not be something that you want to use it for.
Damn.
So yeah.
Right. God damn.
I'm sorry. Are you accusing America of profiting off of perhaps the names?
Here it comes.
It's a crazy idea. I know.
Yeah,
I know. Perhaps taking things that don't belong to them and then
but perhaps it could happen.
Yeah.
So just in case.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay, so know your worth.
This is a recommendation show. We recommend theater. What would you like? What would you like to recommend?
Ooh, I just recommended so many things.
I know.
That's true.
Well, whatever.
Also,
Go ahead. Give it to
this
whatever
is your time.
the middle
Camera
one.
one.
Yeah.
Whatever. I'd say also the Metropolitan Museum of Art is opening a huge new exhibit called Art of Native America, and they have collaborated with a bunch of local indigenous artists, and they are doing living art and contemporary art along with art on the wall or behind glass, because they want to make sure that they're not depicting Native people and Native art as from the past. So starting the very beginning of October, they open. They're going to have so many incredible things you can go to. I know, I'm promoting a white institution, but I already talked about a bunch of Native institutions. Yeah. So, but there's a lot of great Native artists that are going to be performing and involved in that.
Oh, awesome.
Fantastic.
That sounds great. Yeah. Oh my God. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you. It's so
this
great
is
to have
so
you on.
Great. Yeah.
I cannot wait to watch and view and support more native art and more Native theaters. I'm so excited about this.
And you get to laugh a lot, so come to the show.
I'm ready.
Awesome.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you.